Oh no, I got. I know it's a blue Yeti, but I don't even know what model. Off the top of my head. But yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll um leave a link for everyone. Let's see here. I'm just gonna pull up Twitch right quick and just have a window on the side.
My mic is currently leaning to the side and it's pissing my OCD off.
Oh, I hear ya. Mine's like on. It's not even upright. Mine's got like a 5-degree tilt to it. And it's just. Oh, all right. So I'll just message the Discord and let them know. I forget. Does he have like a Twitch or like announcement specific one or?
Do what now?
Oh, I'm just gonna put a link in the Discord for anyone who wants to like listen in.
Oh,
There we go. So now that's out of the way. Um, so yeah, to begin, this theory, the best place to start would be the metaphors. So Vessel uses these metaphors to kind of build a relationship between the two characters. So um, to start with, I got some here on my notebook. So for one, he uses water as a metaphor for emotions, or better phrased as a conduit for emotions. So um, he'll use warm water or like blood in the water to represent holy water, and it can represent love or lust. But I'd say the strongest metaphor he uses is probably blood because he uses it for, like I just said, with water, but with with love and lust, it's the strongest metaphor he uses. The best examples of this would be both um, Nazareth and Jaws, because Jaws is about the vulnerability you have and basically showing someone your wounds and letting them bare their teeth, trusting that they're not going to tear you to shreds. Whereas Nazareth almost is a perversion of like the opposite. It's like, I don't know if sexualizing is the right word, but it's almost like a perversion of like that trust. And basically, it's so he uses like blood almost like wine is used in Christianity, to where it's a holy water, or it's like turning water into wine. So essentially, they're both after two different kinds of blood in a sense. He's after a consumption of flesh. By the way, if you hear that beeping, that's just my cat messing with a toy in the background.
so the way I look at gods,
Yeah.
right? He says, well, the line that stands out to me is, well, it starts the song off with, I see the gods avert their gaze from me. My fucking farm is but a wreck beneath them. The peculiar line to me is there are always people I can count on.
Yeah.
That makes me wonder who. Like, is he referring to sleep in this sense?
Yeah.
Or is it an external force
Yeah.
too, perhaps?
So with the multiple people, or there's always people I can count on. Um, I believe. So to introduce with my theory, I guess I should do a formal introduction. Hi everyone, Justice Cat Media. I'm here to do an explanation of my theory, the quantum pattern, which has kind of evolved quite a bit since the initial drafting of it. And I'm here with Kat, a member of Discord that discusses a lot of sleep token and other things. But he's here to help me guide this discussion, keep me from talking in circles, and yeah. Um, so with gods, I believe that is sleep talking directly because with my theory, the hardest thing to like figure out where to put is what is sleep's role in things. If Vessel and this love interest of his are actually the ones singing in most songs, and the focus isn't actually on a god. So I think so to begin with, Vessel essentially had something occur in his past that obviously has this person in a state where he can only see her when he's dreaming at night. Um, I believe sleep is kind of like a god that came to him in his darkest hour and offered him this reoccurring simulation of what he believed he's missing, this relationship. And so the person he sings to isn't necessarily the actual person. She's a manifestation or a dream of this person that he did love. But that
Okay.
being said,
The way I see it, I think gods is a reaction to dark signs. And the main theory that I agree with is dark signs is basically a confession of Vessel, uh, an attempt on his life, basically.
yeah,
That's how I see it. And then gods appears to be a reaction from sleep. However,
yeah,
however, in another sense, the way that Temp said it is it could also be a reaction to give because it seems to be like the track order doesn't make sense for gods to be a reaction to dark signs.
yeah,
But the way the lyrics formulate just that's the conclusion that it leads me to. The way he Tempt explains it is give is like sleep trying to lure him in again. It's bait basically.
yeah,
And God seems to be Vessel being I'm fucking done with you basically. And both make sense and both work. It's just a matter of dissecting both, kind of.
yeah. So I guess I should just lay the structure of my theory down, just so like my talking points kind of don't get lost in a sense. So we don't really get like the light put on his past and what caused his trauma until this place will become your tomb, which is both an album of guilt and depression, and essentially kind of like giving into a vice, the same way someone can turn on a drug habit as a form of escapism from, dark trauma and different things in their life. Um, I think Vessel kind of has this toxic relationship that he falls into the same way. Um, but for the general framework or like a timeline of things before the songs occur, I think Vessel had a love interest of his that didn't really give him a sense of security or faithfulness. I think he might have even thought that she could have cheated at some point. And he did have a lot of insecurity with this relationship, but um, they both kind of tried to make it work. But I think they did have a point where they fought so hard during a car ride that there was an accident, which she died. And when Vessel talks of like the scars on either his face or his arms or like the marks on his dashboard, like in Dark Signs, or all the metaphors of roads and highways and that, it's he uses like both like automotive symbology as well as roads to be symbolic of the two-way street between life and death, of day and night, and how even though him and this person he's interested in kind of go in a reverse uh, cycle, almost like a orbiting like a planet in opposite directions, and they can only meet at a certain intersection. Um, a lot of his songs are anchored in that symbology because it's like the basis of where his guilt and his acceptance and everything else kind of lie. Um, but yeah, I think after this death of his lover, he's approached by a god named Sleep in his dreams, which offers him basically a dreamscape, a place where he can see her even after death. And Vessel struggles with this because um, it's kind of like you can almost tell when breaking the lyrics down to two people, but he's got a level of untrust and hostility towards this person. And it's weird that if you were to bring someone back from death or see someone that you lost to feel this way, but I think there's like extra details beyond just toxic relationship and car crash that kind of like leaves this back and forth between them. I think um the person she was when she lived has dealt enough damage to Vessel that his guard is up, but the person she is in the dreamscape is not necessarily that same person, but she's kind of like inheriting that mistrust and bad reputation of this person. And I think once Vessel's in this dreamscape in a repeating cycle, because of his mixed emotions, he struggles to essentially come to a sense of closure because he can't put aside his feelings to give the person in front of him the love he wants to. And this kind of like this cycle repeats essentially through the first two EPs and Sundowning. And essentially after Bloodsport, he awakens, and that's when he has like no escapism. He's out of the dream, and that's when his guilt starts eating him alive. Um, that's why he starts the album with Atlantic, and after that, it's just about him falling deeper into this state of sleep of escapism. And
The thing that's
yeah,
peculiar to me is with that theory, that makes me feel like Ascensionism is also him wanting to go. You're
yeah,
going to watch me ascend.
yeah. So
It's
yeah,
it's just interesting.
Oh, for sure. Ascensionism is one of the most dualistic songs in their album because the things that are said are reflected by both people. Um, and I don't think it's just Vessel saying, "Oh, I know what you want. You want to leave." Um, you'd be surprised, like through this lens, how many of the songs are not sung by him. It's quite wild. It's like one of those books where you don't even realize who the main character is till you're like in the final act of it. Um, but I kind of struggled with building the idea of okay, well, who is Vessel representing on the stage if he's singing words of two people? And so that's why I started leaning onto the visual elements. Um, so um,
So,
with
what's your take on the meaning of diamonds in the trees, pentagrams in the night sky?
So diamonds in the trees, that kind of refers to a canopy. So like when he says like, "How comes my hell is your high water?" So basically, the best way to think of it is like layers of depth, or like a thermometer, which goes to both positive and negative temperatures. She is on the negative side and he's on the positive side, and when they both rise and sink, that's where they can intersect and meet. And essentially, diamonds in the trees, pentagrams in the night sky basically means so the night sky basically means there's like ill intention. It's kind of like dark signs to where it's like omens in your skies. Um, so like the pentagrams, the omens, like these things are basically representative of ill intention or basically deception. So diamonds in the trees basically represents, I think, in this garden he sings of in different songs. I believe there's a grand tree, like like when you think of like the Garden of Eden, there's a single. I believe all of the fruit in the Garden of Eden actually come from like a single tree, from my understanding. I'm not heavy into um,
The way
biblical
I
understanding.
see it is Tomb as an overarching theme is Dante's Inferno, Dante's nine levels of hell,
Yeah,
basically. And Eden seems to be recovering from that. So, in that sense,
yeah,
if he's recovering from Dante's nine levels of Inferno, then I guess Eden could symbolize his ascension back up into heaven in that sense,
yeah,
kind of.
yeah. So um uh so with my theory with him like singing to like a love interest, um it's gonna be easier if we just give her a name. So basically, looking at who they have on stage, there's someone who kind of doesn't necessarily make, like, I understand from like the music production side of why they're there, but Espera. So essentially, Vessel has like three female backup singers, even though there's no female vocals on the record, and they each have unique costumes. And um, it kind of goes into so the meaning of Espera in Spanish means wait. So when we think of his love interest, she's someone who's just waiting eternally for him to get his sense of closure, because she's left in a state where she's not really alive or dead while he's still kind of going through this whole process. And it's kind of like, yeah, she's happy that like his emotions and his dreams give her life, but it's also like an existence where she kind of wants to be let go because it's not really living. And so she is kind of stuck waiting eternally. Now, more neat thing is Vessel I've understood to be a little bit of a gamer. So he's played different things like the Fall of Reach, and in the recent Even in Arcadia tour, he even played like the
Like,
water level music from Super Mario 64.
side note, it is confirmed by George Lever that during the Sundowning recording, they played Halo in the mezzanine in the studio.
Oh, that's great.
Halo 3, I believe he said it was.
Yeah,
So he's got good taste.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
Another side note that I find interesting is in Ascensionism,
yep,
it says, "Tell me you met me in past lives,
yep,
past lives."
yep. So,
So what's your take?
so that's I think Vessel. So when he writes some of these lyrics, even though like from a character perspective, they're saying these lines, it's almost like a Shakespearean play to where they're just, or not really a play, more of like an opera to where they're narrating the situation they're in with a fourth wall or like a third party perspective.
Situational irony?
Yeah, so he's basically, he knows that she's telling him sweet nothings, but he's saying, "Tell me you met me in past lives, past lie," and he'll also say, uh, "What's that line about like guess my future and I'll map it onto your fantasy."
Tell me you guessed my future and it mapped onto your fantasy. Turn me into your mannequin and I'll turn you into a puppet queen.
Yeah, so Ascensionism is kind of like a mixture of why are you this way and also just tell me sweet nothings. And it's talking about how they're kind of in a sense using one another um for very one-sided desires. Like she's telling him sweet nothings and telling him they belong together, but it's also in a sense to basically further her own goals because I believe when Sleep created Espera, this like love interest of his, I think she was told if you can convince him to come to the deepest reaches of this dream state, of this ocean, and have him so enthralled that he doesn't want to come back, his physical body will be free for you to take over, for you to have a chance of living. So for like someone who's like a dream, who literally has never like had an existence outside of that, the thought of, oh, I can become like I can actually live as a person outside of this existence. For Sundowning, I think that was part of like her intention with the lyrics. So they play a bit of this cat and mouse game, except Vessel's like skeptic of it. And in the truth of it, um it's not her that's going to take over Vessel's body if that happens. It's going to be Sleep.
Mm.
So the way I can best describe Sleep in the earlier albums as kind of like an anglerfish, and he's using this love interest of Vessel's, like the light, the shiny light that he wants Vessel to fall victim to before he sinks his teeth into him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, even like things in the music video started to make sense once I started to build up these characters. So, um, with Espera, you also have the term Esper, which is like a term in Final Fantasy, but like outside of that, in Final Fantasy, it's a translation for something which is Phantom Beast, which kind of makes sense with what both her and Sleep are to Vessel. Um, half the reason I think like in the Love You Want when he says let's keep the freak show talk to a careful minimum. It's basically like Vessel's like skeptic and like almost calling her a monster and it's unnatural. And she's like, you can't be saying these things. You're going to ruin this. Um, but like I also hear it as like a mixture of like keep the weird kinky bedroom talk to a careful minimum as well. Like that's how a lot of people take it. Um, but with the visual elements as well.
The
So
way I see that is
yeah,
yes, but the next line is seems to be like an ultimatum as well in
yeah,
that sense. Now keep the freak show talk to a careful minimum, or I'll find a different harbor to lay my anchor.
yeah,
Now you could take that as another kinky line, or that could be another metaphor. I'm not entirely sure. I think in my head, I want to say it's Vessel threatening to lay pipe somewhere else, but
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. No, I do agree. There is definitely that mixture of it. Um, so um, further into like the talk of like the visual element of the band, I'm just gonna pull up an image of Vessel's original mask, and I'm just gonna go on OBS here and throw that onto the screen. Okay, so let's see. Image. No capture. There we go. So, I got a little bit of a window capture here. So, taking a look at Vessel's original costume, um, I haven't seen too many people pick on this one detail of his mask, but I'll just go ahead and snip the window here to make it a little better. But yeah, with his original mask, um, when a lot of people wonder what he means by the thread the needle, it is multiple meanings because he does use the labyrinth and like being lost and like uh guide me through like this path I'm lost in. But it's also a mixture of sewing his wounds shut. So like in Fall for Me, he says the echoing futures are the buckling sutures that hold shut the wounds of the past. And when you look at this um, image here, oh, what is going on with this window? I apologize. It's freaking out a little bit. But yeah, when you look at his mask, you can actually see that it's a wound and it's being sewn shut the same way you would see it done surgically, like with almost like a fish hook style needle. And so it's a mixture of uh, thread the needle and sew my wounds shut, heal me. And it's also a mixture of, you can thread the needle, you can carefully navigate this path that I'm lost in, you can guide me out. And so his original costume kind of incorporates that idea, but I think once him and Two met, Two helped him build this grander idea of a mythos of where he wanted to go with it, and that's what caused
Wait,
the. change.
The thing with thread the needle though is, in my understanding of the term, it means like you want to perform a task with precision. Like,
Yes.
and in that sense, it's like, what does he want to do with precision? Like, what is he trying to do? Is he trying to navigate this relationship with precision? Or in what sense? What is he trying to accomplish?
Yeah. So, so I think it's basically he's lost in his own emotions. Uh, Hold on, I got like a. There we go. I had like a spam thing in the chat, but um, when he's saying to thread the needle, so like to basically do that with precision, I think it's in regards of like his own emotions. Like when you see this mansion that he's kind of in for the Alkaline music video, I think it's like symbolically the same sort of like mansion interior that he sings about in Past Self, where he says the guarding hounds in this hell house opening new doors, or I have a ghost in the hallway grinning. The interior that he sings about is this like I'm like my imagery of it is almost like the Winchester Mansion if you've ever seen it. It's this like house that was
Uh,
just built on
Giant
and built on.
labyrinth, yeah, just repeatedly built on for decades or
Yeah.
whatnot.
So I think Vessel stuck himself in this like labyrinth of his mind and he can't escape out of it without help. Um so to
Mm.
kind of dig a bit further on it, I didn't understand their current. Well, I understood their current logo in regards of like the actual runes that are used of it. It's symbolistic of like the duality and basically the spiritual journey and whatnot that they sort of go through with the discography. But
Mm-hmm. I
even in
see.
Arcadia, kind of help with that. So basically with the EPs, so for the story framework, I'm just checking my little cue card here I wrote these notes on, but I have here that there's two lovers with history, both bad and good. Wherein how they met, well, they obviously have like a history where they were in a relationship beforehand, but when they met in this dreamscape is obviously after the tragedy. But um um we have to kind of look and see about who's who. So, um, with kind of like the goals and intentions of the characters, it kind of helps looking at the lyrics and like slice up who's singing what in each song when you think about intention. So Vessel has these kind of like um I don't want to say bloodthirsty, but he's kind of got this like carnal sort of impulse to his attraction towards Espera, his love interest, and in turn, she kind of wants like sympathy and compassion because she's getting anything but that from this person who can't trust her because of his own past trauma. Um, so I'm just gonna pull up a list of like the EPs to sort of go through each song and what they. So we obviously went into Thread the Needle quite a bit. Um, Next track after that is Fields of Elation. So this one kind of talks a bit about his isolation in the room he's in. Um,
the room of his mind. In
Yeah,
that sense.
his mindscape. But it also builds this idea of like potential to their love interest. So this is kind of like a precursor to Gethsemane in my understanding, because uh so he says the daylight recedes in unison this room, buries the hours like death in motion. So to start with those first two lines, so it kind of talks about how this room recedes, so like the walls come away and basically it's like open space, so kind of like he's free and like in open space when he dreams, kind of like the ocean. So I don't know if you've ever played Subnautica, but like have you like do you know what I mean when I say you're in open ocean and you literally can't see anything above or below you and it's disorienting?
Yeah, I I've played Subnautica a little bit, not much though.
Yeah. I think um I think of like these walls pulling away and then it's just open spacious like ocean underneath him. Um but when he says buries the hours like death in motion, he uses like this metaphor of time paired with death and movement um quite a bit. Like even in Look to Windward's a recent example where he says, "And the shadows longer to me than a light year, moving so slow I could die here." So with that we have like motion, uh longer to me than a light year. So it's talking about the distance and how long it would take to move it, and how the lack of motion of it is making him feel like he could just die where he is. So he does use that quite a bit, and it pairs with that whole car crash symbology as well. Um, and then the next line, nobody else can pull me out. So that also I think goes hand in hand with thread the needle as well, to where like no one else can guide me out of here. Um, and then obviously the title line, the fields of elation quiet and loamy. So until I joined our Discord here, I never understood what loamy meant, but it basically means like fertile soil, by having a mixture of clay and sand. So basically like on the shore of water where there's like a lot of like sand and clay mixed in. So that kind of like gets built on in the future when he says, "You are a garden entwined with all. You are the silence on sacred shores." So what could be a fruitful garden. So he's talking about these fields of elation are quiet and loamy, so they have potential to become a garden of love between him and this person he sings to. Um, what were your thoughts on kind of that first phrase?
Um, I always of Fields of Elation. Um, the way I see it is the Fields of Elation are quiet and lonely. Quiet, obviously. Um, I always took loamy to mean lonesome, yet fertile in that sense.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely get that. Um, but
No one can pull him out but himself because he's trapped in his own mind. No one else knows what's going on behind the scenes, type thing.
yeah,
Like, you don't know somebody else's thoughts that
yeah.
are.
Um, so the second kind of set of bars on it kind of build a few ideas, or it's like the first mention of like recurring ideas, of like he says breath. So your name is a sin I breathe like oxygen. So he builds two sort of reoccurring metaphors and ideas from that. One being essentially breath. So he uses, I think, the right term would be pneuma, which is essentially like a Greek term for like the breath of life, and it's a mixture of like fire and wind together. So um, it's neat with like dangerous. He says, and you might breathe that burning breeze through paradise for me. So he's kind of saying like, yeah, you could bring ruin to this paradise, but you also could breathe life into it. Um, and it's also the mentioning of like beckoning by name. So like by saying someone's name, that's it's like beckoning them. So when he's in grief and he says her name as he's like falling asleep, and when he wakes up, it keeps on um, conjuring Espera, this like love interest in his dreamscape. So um, basically, uh, her name is a sin he breathes like oxygen. It's a sin because he's bringing this existence out of her that isn't necessarily natural, and it's for his own benefit. And then he says, caught in the careless arms of lust again. Basically, he's giving into his vice. And then after that, it kind of is repetitive. And when he says, I'm losing my faith in our lives apart, that I think that's obviously between their like day and night relation and how they have this severed existence.
Yeah, I can see that. The way it just makes sense for it to be like a severed relation in that sense. Kind
Yeah.
of. So what's your take on Calcutta then?
Yeah, so Calcutta is a mixture of like the grief of when he wakes up and he knows she's not there, and it also kind of builds off of that idea of like pneuma, like breath of life, and uh yeah, like this song, um it has such an overlap with Fields of Elation we were just talking about. So I'll just snip the lyrics here. Um, okay, so yeah, I got him here. So he says, I am caught, tangled in, wrapped and quartered, tripping up and over. So, I think this is representative of him just being kind of like stuck in place with this guilt, and how this escapism kind of has him just like he's helpless to it. Kind of like someone being caught in a spider web, and um, he also builds this. This is like the first of a metaphor of his missing pieces. So, him being broken apart into fractions. Um, so I think this um, experience kind of like of the loss of the tragedy, it broke him apart, and he says, "Time lived again for just a moment. Missing pieces find me." So with that, he's basically saying, with this escapism, just for a moment, I feel normal again. Um, and he the like line before that where he says wrapped and quartered, so he's like wrapped up in this thing and he's broken apart by the tragedy of it. And then he says, I sweat and I ache for your eyes and the way you breathe. And um um so with that, I think he talks about like whenever he mentions sweat, it's also like associated to like sinful intention, kind of like I don't even want to get into Gethsemane yet, where like the whole thing is like Jesus sweating so hard it turns into blood um, from prayer. But like, Way says, and I wake saying your name. This says say your name, but it's saying your name.
Yeah.
Um, so I think when he says and I wake, I think it basically means like when morning comes and he's at, like in the living world, but it also means like awake is like when you're mourning someone who's passed. So he's saying like, and then I'm mourning you in the morning. So like his like overlapping like wordplay with things like that always gets me. But yeah, like when the morning comes, he's mourning the loss of her, or he's like having a wake, and then he says her name, which beckons Aspera again. It's that whole thought becomes person thing. So um you are more than warm belief melting skywards, more than silence broken. I'm whole for just again, or I'm whole again for just a moment till the morning comes. So he's trying to basically say she's more than just like, his thoughts. She's and melting skyward. So basically like hopes that she's like making her way to heaven, I think. So I think that kind of ties to Euclid too, where he says, if your wings won't find you heaven, I will bring it down like an ancient bygone. But like, what are your thoughts on Calcutta? I know I've been going for a bit here.
Um, I have to read the lyrics real quick to get my thoughts together. Da-da-da-da.
Yep.
In my opinion, it's in the same vein as Nazareth, with him trying to like garner deal with lust on one end and genuine uh, satisfaction with
Yeah.
sleep. Like he wants to, but he lusts for sleep and genuinely craves sleep, but at the same time, sleep is using him,
Yeah.
and basically he's entranced
Yeah.
by her.
Yeah, I think Vessel does this sort of back and forth dance between his like lust and his like just pure platonic love for like who he sings to. Um um and it's oh, she said you'd better believe it. I said you don't know. Oh, you said you better be there. I said you don't even know. Um for that, I think it's like a when Aspera, or like this like dream version of his lover, appears, she's saying, "You better believe it. I'm the real thing," and he's like, "Mm, I don't think you are." And he still kind of got that like mistrust, and oh, you said you better be there. I said you don't even know. With that, I think I'm I'm kind of like back and forth on who's saying that.
In my opinion, that interpretation, like the lyrics are a little bit vague on
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah, for sure. Um, I just want to jump back to the one EP right quick. Um, the lyrics are quite a thick stack, so I might just like um get a quick snippet of some of them, because when the bow breaks really repeats itself quite a bit, but at the start, um I think the first like two paragraphs are Vessel, and he's kind of like looking for praise for like him giving her life in a sense. And I think that's part of like his relationship prior to this whole thing, where he felt like he had something he had to prove in order to earn her love. So he says, "You could stay alive. Just tell me that you notice, even in the dark, the way I left you breathing." So he's just saying, like, look at what I provided for you. Like, look at this uh, life that you have because I gave that to you. And then um, I think the next paragraph um, is both of them. And it kind of talks about how they can't physically touch and how that's like a big um, issue that they face with this whole escapism thing. That's when the immersion breaks for him. Um, Sometimes when we touch, everything we love resets. It's only just enough, even when we run with death. So sometimes when we touch, everything we love resets. I think that has like two meanings of like both like before all of this and like the current one. So I think if they do come into touch contact, this whole like dream simulation they have, it's almost like when you're dreaming and you wake up right before the best part happens. And you're like, God damn it. I think he experiences that because he can't physically touch her. It's one of the rules that sleep has in place. Um, and he's saying it's only just enough, which kind of like goes in line with Calcutta. Um, we could be released flowing over sorrow days. We could stay suspended even when the bow breaks. So that third one, that third paragraph, I think, is like dualistic in a sense. It's saying we could be released from this whole process we're going through, this cycle, if we just actually grieved what happened, if we stop running away from it. But then it's also saying, but we also could stay suspended from all that grief. We could escape it, even when the bow breaks. So, uh, even when the the bow breaks, so that line's got a bunch of meaning to it, like a bunch of different meanings. Um, but I think it's also in reference to like the bow of a ship. When that breaks, you're like obviously you can't move forward with your ship. Um, but you say we could stay suspended, so we can stay afloat even when the ship is broken, even when this vehicle that we're journeying on can no longer proceed. Um, and sometimes when we touch, everything we love resets. It's only just enough, even when we run with death. And then there's that death in motion metaphor again. So what are your thoughts on like the first four paragraphs there?
Um, I think it's an interesting perspective. I mean, as you said, it's like it kind of builds on the theme of vessel being like a ship. Like
Yeah,
he he is something for sleep to manifest and be his own in that sense. I You are more than warm belief melting skywards, more than silence broken. Then in that sense, I think whenever he is with her, he's whole again
yeah,
for just a moment. Then morning comes and then she disappears
yeah.
because he
Um.
awakes.
Oh wait, is that still Calcutta?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking when the bow breaks, kind of like the first
Oh,
four paragraphs when he's saying like you could stay alive, tell me you noticed. When we touch, everything resets. Um, yeah, like what are your
it's
thoughts on
still
like
still in the same vein. I mean, it's still building on the idea that whenever he's asleep, he can be with her. he's together with her. And then when morning comes, then um when morning comes, she disappears
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I think yeah, so like I think it's kind of like the mixture of like I think she's tired of this process. She's like, "Okay, this is your fantasy. This isn't mine. You have to face reality." He's like, "Nuh-uh. We all float down here. I'm good. I don't want to deal with the big sad." And then he's like, "No, we're fine. We're fine." And it's kind of like he's in denial. And then with the whole "don't lie to me," that's a mixture of both of them saying it like sort of back and forth. I think she's saying it to him when she's saying you're not really in love with me or like this idea of me. You just don't want to be alone with your own thoughts. Because it's like in Damocles when he says when what is silent to you is screaming to me, it's his own thoughts. Um, like for anyone that's seen Tim's most recent video covering Tomb, his take on Fall for me is just like beautiful for this analogy to where if you remove Vessel's voice and you get to hear the backing track, it's silence. So Vessel's thoughts are kind of like the driving force of like his um like emotional journey in that sense. If he's left with his own thoughts, he's going to spiral. Um, but when he says "don't lie to me" to her, it's don't pretend like you're here just to please me because you like me. You're doing this out of your own existence. If I'm not here calling your name and wishing for you, you're not going to exist. And you're placating me so I come back again and again. And the after the whole "don't lie to me" set of bars, they say everything we touch turns water into blood. Um, you try to look away from, uh, yeah, you try to look away from even when the bow breaks. Um, you don't really love, you just hate to be alone. So I think this is like the first time she's sort of clapped back at Vessel, calling him out for like the selfish behavior of his like escapism and how it's one sided and how he's it's like Gethsemane where he says, "I was in love with the thought that we were in love with each other." He was in love with the idea of it, of the like white picket fence and the two-car garage, the like standard fantasy or the American dream, or you know the idea of like, no, this is normal. We're great. We're in a normal relationship. We both love each other. We both care for each other. It's all good. No one died. And she's like, you need to wake up, Vessel. You need to like actually, face the truth here. And he's not ready to do that. And yeah, I think in Tomb he tried to do that way too early before he was ready, and it almost sank him.
Yeah, I think that is a really good analysis of it. Um, in Gethsemane, Jesus, it's still hard to say.
Yeah,
My brain wants to say Gethsemane, but
yeah.
um,
I heard
won't
someone
go
call it
for it.
"Get This Man." It was funny, but yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
In Gethsemane, he says, and even though it's colder now, I no longer feel surrounded.
Yeah,
I always took that as he's alone, but without sleep's presence, it's like he doesn't have any the people to support him like he did in Gods.
yeah,
Um, And I guess you never saw me naked. You wouldn't even touch me as a callback to the love you want in a sense. Um, and I was your robot companion is kind of like he's just going through the motions. He never felt anything or reciprocated anything in
Yeah.
that sense.
Yeah. So, now that I've kind of talked about it a little bit, I wanted to sort of like, I don't want to go song by song with Sundowning because I think as it kind of tells like a back and forth between these two characters and the mistrust between them and the toxic elements of their relationship kind of diverting them from where they want to go. But I just kind of want to grab my typed up document here. So, um, um, so when you hear the term gods and like heaven, with his lyrics, it's from the perspective of like Aspera, this dream. Because when you're a dream, a god is someone who like creates you, gives you life, gives you existence. So she sings about the actual living people in the world above this submerged dream state. Um, and heaven is essentially that world of the living where you don't have to fear about your existence being anchored on someone else wanting you. Um, but on the other side of the perspective, you have a Vessel seeing her as an angel because she's the memory of someone he no longer has beside him in the material world, appearing to him beyond the veil of death. Um, it also gives him a sort of like a dreamscape fantasy paradise, heaven, because she awaits him there in his dreams. So like when gods, angels, and heaven are mentioned in the different songs, um, that's kind of like what it means to her and what it means to him, like respectively, with it to one another. From my analysis, like
Yeah.
because like everyone's like gods plural. There's more than one. There's more than just sleep. Oh God, and then they're starting to go with like a whole mythos of it, and it's like I don't know. I feel like I feel like they would have at least introduced like thematically like more than just the the moon tentacle illustration in Teeth of God if there was more than just sleep. So I kind of had to be like, okay, well, when they talk of gods, I need to like put a lens of perspective of like who's saying it because it could mean something entirely different uh from just like what we understand as like gods and like heaven and angels. Um so the whole thing with sundowning I have listed. So to start with, like the term sundowning, it's like a state of increased confusion, agitation, anxiety, um, and uh, disorientation that occurs when people with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia are worsening with their symptoms, usually in the late afternoon as daylight fades. Um, and it can happen with things like low light, fatigue, disrupted internal body clocks, and changes in the brain from Alzheimer's. One thing that
Yeah.
got me right away was the disrupted internal body clocks, which kind of goes with that whole thing he says about like death and motion and where time slows down. So like this dreamscape is so immersive for him that it's disorienting for his like sense of identity. He doesn't know if this version of him in the dream world is the real him, or the one outside is him, and it's a form of escapism. Um, so I think sundowning isn't referring to sleep, but I think it refers to Vessel, because he becomes someone else when the sun goes down. But I think as a form of his escapism, and kind of like part of the appeal of it all, is when he enters this dream state, the memories and like the trauma from beforehand don't follow him, but the emotions of it does. So he has this like animosity and like sort of mistrust towards her without knowing why, because
Yeah.
the feelings are
Um,
there but the logic isn't.
I always felt like the lore is just a giant back and forth, and I
Yeah.
wonder what the resolution will be.
Yeah. Yes. So uh so basically, um so one thing is, when you wake up from a dream, a lot of the time your dreams fade away from your mind as you're entering the waking world. So he's got a dual sense of sundowning, in that sense, to where he forgets who he is when he forgets who he is when he's awake in the living world, when he enters the dream state where he sees her. But when he goes back to it, he forgets the dreams where he sees her. He's just longing for her. Now, this has caused, like you said, a lot of back and forth, and kind of like it's almost like a stalemate. It's like, well, how are we going to proceed? Because neither side's moving forward on this. They're kind of like a rock and an immovable object. And
Yeah.
then, so with that, I kind of went to Tomb with a trilogy mindset. Like I was like, okay, well, Tomb is obviously like in the trilogy of trauma. It's like the Empire Strikes Back. It's the darker sequel that is more ambitious, and it surprises you, and it challenges the protagonist in a way that it makes him question a lot of things about himself, and if he's even ready to. And then he comes back to it, and he's more resolved, and he's ready to conquer those obstacles in the third act. Um, so my whole understanding is, going back to like sleep and what sleep's idea and intention is. Sleep wants Vessel's body, because I think sleep is a god without a corporeal form, and that limits him to like basically only be able to interact with dreams, basically actual like created things that don't have corporeal form. Um, but in getting Vessel's body, that changes everything. Um, I think in Tomb there's a breaking point to where Vessel gives in, because he tries to face the grief and the trauma, and he's not ready to, so he's more susceptible to essentially this seduction. And uh when I kind of like first thought of like this with this lens, it made me like tear up a little bit. But like basically, I think descending is the pivotal point in Tomb, to where the back and forth ends. It's basically like, are you in this or not? Because you want to walk away, but you're not. So are you going to either commit to this? You said you're going to save me. Well, do it. And it's kind of both of them having that. And then the album after that point talks about him like falling further, and how he's experiencing new feelings, and uh kind of how he starts really falling deeper and deeper, and like with the album, how there's like different measures of depth. um it's doing the same thing for Vessel in this dream state. And I think in Missing Limbs, the like last track of it. Um, when she says, um, so the line, and it still makes my blood run thin to remember what you are to him. I don't think it's Vessel saying that. I think it's actually Espera. And in the whole album or the whole discography up till that point, we like looking at it with this lens, you don't know if she actually cares for Vessel or if she's playing the role. If she's doing this to try to basically make uh, Vessel fall deep enough to where she benefits from it and where she can, under her own understanding, uh, take over and take advantage of them. And
Have you ever considered that the Asperas could be like the a representation of the Trinity, the Holy Spirit, and God?
yeah, yeah. So I think, yeah. So I think there's like almost like a triforce with these three characters of Sleep, Vessel, and Aspera, and um, I think they represent those three, um, very well. Um, Now, so back to missing limbs. So when she says, "And it still makes my blood run thin to remember what you are to him," she's singing to Vessel about Sleep's intention, about like, I know when you come down this deep, you're you have a predator waiting in ambush to sink its teeth into you, to rip you to shreds. And essentially in regards of like the depth, they're at the lowest depth. And when she says that, she says, "And I'll still live like I have is that how it goes, like, and I'll still live like I have missing limbs for you?" I
Yeah.
think that's what follows. So um basically, I think in an act of selflessness and genuine love, and like the first thing that actually hints that she does have a like a love and caringness for Vessel outside of all of this, I think she actually pushes him to the surface. So like basically they're at the deepest part, and then she propels Vessel and like saves him from like his like moment before, the jaws sink into him. And in doing so, that like little end like audio fuzz and like distortion you hear, I
Hmm.
think it's like from the barotrauma of like Vessel being propelled to the surface at an alarming rate. And then after that, um so this like dream simulation they're in, I think of it as like a digital simulation like the Matrix, because you hear like digital audio sort of like distortions in both The Night Does Not Belong to God, and here in Missing Limbs it sounds like that, and it sounds like almost like water being poured on a like an electronic, to where it just zaps out of power. And then in Take Me Back to Eden, this whole simulation resets, and in doing so, the rules change a bit. Um, they actually, well, I think she's been able to remember things the whole time through the discography. That's like, I think why she's making these like informed either decisions or like these statements like referring to things past, or she talks about like um through these like echoing reoccurring situations. um but I think Vessel is finally like the sundowning breaks essentially for him, and he's able to remember things. And I think Take Me Back to Eden is both like him being like, no, look into the actual past of things. I'm ready. And it starts with Chokehold saying, um, and show me that which I cannot see, even if it hurts me, even if I can't sleep. Um, he's
Mhm.
basically saying, no, show me what happened. And then the third track, Granite, I think talks a bit about the I think it's the most car accident related track out of all of them, because it's like glass on the street, you were more than just a body in my passenger seat. And then it talks about being 6 feet we'd rather be 6 feet under than be lonely. And Vessel builds this like understanding of like the trauma and a sense of acceptance of it. And he, I think in Take Me Back to Eden, it's like him battling his own emotions of like the negative side of it. So it's like, um, why can't I get back to where we were? Why can't we love each other and care for each other the way that we did? And then it cuts to the second verse to where he's like talking about his mistrust, answer calls from people I just don't trust, mirror talk, fake love. Um, and then the third verse goes back to the like love and the innocence behind it all, and how um he's letting his trauma eat away at him. And that's what he's actually talking about when he says, I don't know what's got its teeth into me, but I'm about to bite back in anger. um and then when he gets that acceptance, um I think Sleep kills him at the end of Take Me Back to Eden, or that's when Sleep makes his move. And then Vessel has a choice of either trying to like rush to the surface and let the simulation end with Aspera and whatnot, um, or he can make his way to her. So, uh, segment number two of like what made me choke up during this like lore review of it is with Euclid. He's like reflecting on their past, um, in all the good times and everything, and he's talking about, if your wings won't find you heaven, I will bring it down. But he's not talking about like destroying heaven or anything. At least he's not. Um, he's talking about himself when he says that. If your wings won't find you heaven, I will bring it down, like an ancient bygone. And
Mm.
so I think Vessel chooses to fall the full depth to be with her at the end of Euclid. And that's why it goes back to the night does not belong to gods. Um, uh, that verse where it's like lovers entwined, we tangle endlessly. We tangle endlessly, and in choosing that, you've probably seen the Euclid artwork to where it's like a bipedal insect, and he's holding Vessel's head like decapitated.
Mm. Yeah. I can definitely see that. My favorite part, honestly, of Missing Limbs is that feedback loop.
Yeah,
It really makes me like, it feels like rushing adrenaline.
yeah,
Kind
yeah. I think it's like what song is it when he said in past self where he says gave away of my blessings, lift off weightless. I think it's him like surfacing to the like surface level of the ocean with nothing
Yeah,
weighing him down.
like Missing Limbs is the bottom. I think it's 10,000. Is it Point Nemo?
I think Point Nemo is like a
Most remote
latitude
place.
long ago. It's like what is it? The Marianas Trench is like the deepest point.
Yeah. No, it's Challenger Deep.
Yes.
That's like 10,900 something meters. And then all of a sudden he ascends back to the top so he can loop back into Atlantic.
Yeah. Yeah. So like Yeah, I see like missing limbs is like the turning point of what basically allows them to end the back and forth. And that's why I think like Take Me Back to Eden, it does feel like there's some actual like development and growth with Vessel and like his journey because he's finally out of this cycle that's just keeping him in a toxic cycle of reliance on this illusion as a vice, and he's finally able to like tackle his like emotions and everything. And then
Yeah.
um so even in Arcadia is the hardest. It's gonna be the hardest one for me to explain because it's telling three situations in my mind. It's telling the continued like sort of love journey between Vessel and Espera. Um, it's also like I think it's actually discussing sleep, sleep entering the waking world, um, in Vessel's body, and he's there to like rip the heavens asunder. I think as a vengeance, because like gods is like the precursor to even in Arcadia, as far as sleep's perspective goes. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, like even in Arcadia has this whole like King Arthur based like mythology mixed with like the Greek lore and such. But like I see the next album going with Vessel coming full circle with like um both getting acceptance and closure with Espera and also like approaching sleep in the waking world and basically like dethroning him. So he's like a king ready to take his throne. And that's what I think the logo represents. It's basically going to represent Vessel taking Sleep's throne um, from like Arcadia, because like it basically shows like the does this shirt have no, this shirt doesn't have the band logo, but like it looks like Heaven's Gates. It has like a big cross through it, basically like no entry. And when Vessel says, "Come now, swing wide those gates" in the track, even in Arcadia, um, that's him ready. I think the reason they haven't played it live yet is because the story, um, leading up to even in Arcadia, as far as like the lore and everything, uh, relates to it has not transpired yet. So I don't think he's ready to sing it live because of that. If that makes sense.
Um, yeah, I definitely see that overall, and um, it's more just a matter of where I definitely fall split between the quantum pattern theory and also everybody else's like overarching theory that it's an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And it um for me it's like where is the overlap? Because I believe there's like most things, it's not so black and white.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for sure. Um what's another good song?
Um. So speaking on everything you just mentioned there, I have a beautiful follow up to that. So, I've told this to Tim, the like main guy who runs the Discord, just because like when I kind of put this together, it kind of blew my mind. But with the Sundowning logo, I don't know if it was necessarily intentionally done this way, but the Sundowning logo basically, um, in Sundowning and Jaws as well, they mention low light quite a bit. So basically, when the lights are dimmed and you squint your eyes a bit, if you do that to the Sundowning logo. Instead of being this like almost black obelisk looking image, it becomes two gray stripes and like a black division between them. So I think it's symbolic of the two people in the relationship and how when you kind of like close your eyes a bit, you can see that it's actually it's not black and white. They're both gray in regards of like their role in the relationship. There's not a good guy or a bad guy. They're both um, different people that are carrying uh, trauma, and it's shaping the choices they make. And they're not doing anything out of pure ill intention. It's just like a matter of like that's what they do to survive because it's what they know. Um, so that being said, with the two characters, I put together the following traits. So, in a sense, because of the negative aspects of their relationship, they struggle to see each other as actual people. So with Vessel, we can see that he has a lack of memory with Sundowning. He his like he can be violent with his lyrics. You know, he'll say,
Yeah.
"You've got diamonds for teeth, my love. Between teeth on a broken jaw, I have eyelids heavy enough to break diamonds." Um, when Vessel said that, I don't think he meant like his eyelids literally could break diamonds. I think he was saying, "I'm tired enough that I'm ready to swing." Um, and essentially, Vessel is wounded from trauma's past, and he's ridden of guilt of what those wounds have caused him to do, both in this relationship and maybe outside of it. When he says trauma for the neighbors. Um, so if you put all of those traits Vessel shows in the lyrics um, to a monster, Vessel symbolically is a werewolf. You know, the monster comes out at night and he's wounded from a trauma past and he lashes out at anything around him. And then when he wakes up, he doesn't remember, and he's also ridden by the guilt of his own animosity. And then with Aspera, as a character, you can see she's essentially starved of affection and love. Um, she can be closed off, manipulative. In a sense, she's immortal, and essentially, for her to go forward in this, Vessel has to welcome her in. And then she returns to her home of death, her place of burial, um, when the night uh, ends, when daylight arises, because she can't be in the daylight. Um, and she also feeds off of Vessel's love. Symbolically, she's a vampire.
Yeah. Um Interesting.
Yeah. So like um it's kind of neat that when you look at the lyrics through that lens, I think Vessel very intentionally wrote the characters that way if that is the case. Like one could possibly see it that because of the traumas past, they kind of struggle to see each other as humans after hurting each other, and they see each other as monsters, creatures of the night, instead of hurt people that are desperate for love. And I think that's going to be the key to them like figuring this out. That's going to be Vessel's like end point of this journey is like the realization.
Hmm.
But yeah, as far as their music, I don't necessarily. I think the next. I think there's going to be possibly two albums, maybe one, but I think that Vessel has at least one more album because I don't think he had his turning point yet in Infinite Baths. I think it was kind of like the end of Sundowning to where he thought he was ready at the end, but he wasn't, and he kind of got sent down deep somewhere. So like I think he tried to like approach challenging Sleep when he wasn't ready, and Sleep's like, all this glory you didn't earn, all these lessons you didn't learn, you're gonna drown. So I kind of think that's what's gonna happen. Except this time when Vessel goes under, it's kind of gonna be like his King Arthur moment, to where like the Lady of the Lake offers him his sword, and uh, that's kind of why I got so pumped when I saw the album, not the album, the tour artwork where like each show was revealing an image. I'm like, if Vessel's pulling a fucking sword out of like stone, I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind, and that's what it was. So like, yeah, I think um Vessel's next costume is gonna be a mixture of like white and gold. Um, and I think it'd be sick if he had like a crown around his hood on top of the mask. But
Yeah.
like,
Definitely.
yeah, where do you see their like music going, both in like uh maybe not even like story wise, but like where do you see like their soundscape going? That's like probably the biggest thing.
I see them incorporating more EDM elements. Like with the success of bands like President,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they incorporate more sampling
Yeah.
in like the intro and then build off that.
Yeah. I think Vessels I think they at least have to like, oh fuck, what's that one genre? It's like postmodern, I think it's called, to where it's like it's a mixture of like electronic music, but it has like very cinematic like orchestral stuff to it. Um I could see a mixture of like that, because like this last album felt very cinematic in a sense. Like there was a lot of like, I could see this being put behind scenes of like a big epic movie.
Yeah, I definitely see it.
Yeah.
It's I've always wanted 3 to have more like bass features. I think that'd be
Yeah.
cool. Like I like to imagine him doing like a slap bass solo, but
Yeah.
that's just because I like Wolfpack. So
Yeah.
having art is uh definitely interesting.
Yeah. I want them to like, hearing Look to Windward, I'm like, I need more Phrygian in like their songwriting. My god. That whole Egyptian soundscape. If they do like flamenco guitar at some point, I'll lose my mind.
I think if they go Phrygian, then I mean it's a cool sound, but I like what they're doing with harmonic minor, mainly because I love harmonic minor as it
Yeah.
is. But I could definitely also see them going towards the melodic minor side of things. But typically, they usually, with the way I describe their song structure, is the Bohemian Rhapsody formula.
Yeah, yeah,
Basically.
it is.
Um, and with that, their sound is very major minor,
Yeah.
kind of. It
Yeah.
blurs the line between the two with the sus chords. Like
Yep.
Emergence, for example, it's E minor, it's E minor 7, I believe,
Yeah.
to like a it's like E sus 4 to G sus 4, which
Yeah.
are both kind of nothing chords. They are they don't really point any direction, but it's interesting to have a the sus chord that's also the one chord.
Yeah,
So in that sense, it's like it
yeah,
wants to resolve, but it's not at the same time.
yeah. I think with a lot of the more recent stuff with the chord structures, he kind of sacrifices the second and third chord to really make the fourth one big, and like the resolution of the chord structure is just, oh, it's so good. But I shouldn't say he like sacrifices them in a sense of like he's just picking dud chords to make the fourth one stand out. I think he's like, it's kind of like the band members to where they're good, but they know Vessel's like what people come to see, so they're mainly his support. Um, but like yeah, Emergence, like the intro section with the piano chords is a lot like that.
The, the thing with Emergence though is the three chord is a power chord.
Yeah,
So that's also interesting. Like all three chords in the progression point nowhere.
yeah,
And it's really that vocal melody that's leading the harmony.
yeah, yeah. Like yeah, people can say what they want about the band, but I'm gonna be like in the echo chamber for this one. But people can say they don't like the music, but they can't say it's not well written. My God.
They just don't understand theory.
Yeah, like people who like listening to music really appreciate Sleep Token, but people who actually understand written music and like, take that away when they hear music, oh, Sleep Token's a treat.
It's another example of their genius is the offering, setting up the lead harmony so when that breakdown comes in,
Yeah.
mm, it's just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. I think yeah. With Arcadia, Caramel was like the biggest surprise I had when I heard reggaeton, and then it went straight into like black metal gaze. I was like, you're gonna have someone just like, swinging their hips to this, and then they're just gonna hear Vessel screaming behind blast beats, and it's like whiplash, but it blends together. You can't say it doesn't, but it's just so jarring how they pulled that one off.
Yeah, it's all an interesting sound. Like I love watching George Lever's videos
Yeah,
because he have a YouTube channel, mainly because I'm going to college to be a recording engineer. So seeing his
awesome.
insight between but behind the albums is always, but little treats he gives is always
Oh,
worth it.
definitely. Yeah, I've seen like a longer interview, and I didn't know he was such a philosopher and just of life in general.
Yeah,
It's always fun to hear his takeaway on things. But yeah, I think with this discussion, we kind of hit like all the major points to my theory. I'm obviously gonna work on it in like hopefully a better formatted presentation of it, kind of like how Tim has done his album reviews. But I just wanted to get a video out there, kind of going over my thoughts and like the lens I'm looking at Sleep Token through to sort of get my understanding of their lyrics and everything.
definitely. It's interesting. I want to see where they go because so far all my predictions, because I've been with them since Sundowning,
Oh, damn.
and yeah, I didn't get into them. Like I heard Jaws when it came out,
Yeah,
and I didn't. I liked it, but it wasn't real. I wasn't big on modern metal at the time.
yeah,
Um, so I was like, this is neat. Um, I don't know if I'd actually listen to it, but it was good. And then Sundowning came out. It was like, what the fuck is this band?
yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I fuck with it. I fuck with it.
Yeah, I
And
think the
then
first time I
I was
seeked them
like,
out, it was the summoning. But before that, I heard the offering in my friend's car. I'm like, what is this band?
I was like, huh, this is gonna be the hardest band to explain to my friends.
Oh my god, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I listen to this band called Sleep Token, and my friend's like, cool, what genre are they? I'm like, don't ask me that. Why would you do that?
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, um, yeah, the term I've been using for them is ambient progressive. I won't use anything beyond that because they definitely build an atmosphere, and it's very progressive, and I think that works for Bohemian Rhapsody too, because you could say it's like rock opera, but like there's different components to it that kind of make it really hard to nail down.
Yeah, their sound is complex to say the least, but it
Yeah,
also helps having somebody like George Lever to really carry their sound.
yeah, yeah. Do you think
My
they're gonna
man.
stick with their current producer for the next album, or if they might try to do another one with George?
Well, the thing is, he's not technically credited on the album, but Nolly did do a lot of the drum mixing.
Okay,
So I don't know if you know who Nolly is, but
it's familiar, but it's not.
he's the studio bassist for Periphery,
Okay, okay, yeah.
but he's also he mixed all their albums and also has a lot more credits beyond that. I like to call him the Bob Ross of production. Look
Nice.
up a picture of Adam Nolly get good and you'll see what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Or just listen to him talk. Hold on, let me pull this up for you.
I can just imagine he'll be like, then we're just gonna put like a nice little bass section in here. There.
All right, there you go.
And hitting in a certain way, and as I say, smoothing out differences between sections. So it's a really cool plugin, one which I've been using for a few years now since it came. Well, maybe not since it came out, but soon after it came out. And to me, is something I wouldn't
Oh yeah, I
I wouldn't
see
say I
it.
wouldn't mix without it, but I really appreciate having it. So let's bypass both Gullfoss and the tape machine. I don't see the point in bypassing the limiter and just making things quiet and loud for you. So I'll
Yeah.
leave that on. You'll be able to see on the meters how much it's doing as I hit play. So first thing I'll do is
God dang. I'll probably like jump off watching the thing just so I don't get flagged for like audio copyright or something for the video.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, like that's a good spot to wrap up. So um I don't want to like put you on the spot too bad, but just with the whole theory of the songs being about two people kind of like on the different sides of life and death, what kind of was your takeaway with it?
My takeaway overall is just everything seems to blend together. Like in a sense that there's two perspectives, well, technically more to this entire lore.
Yeah,
Um in the sense that the quantum pattern theory lines up with a lot of things. I still think it needs to be fleshed out entirely.
oh for sure,
Uh,
yeah,
but it's interesting to see the development and how far it's come.
yeah,
Um, I still think overall the way that everything lines up makes more sense with the abusive relationship,
yeah,
and but it's interesting to see another perspective.
yeah. Yeah, like that's one thing I've learned with like discussing different theories with people is that everyone has a valuable takeaway that is absolutely a part of the bigger picture. And I don't think like my theory is necessarily one for one accurate by any means, But I don't think anyone's necessarily wrong. I just think there's a bigger picture. So it's like they're looking at it with like a color missing out of the spectrum of like being able to see all the detail. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on to the call here and kind of discussing this theory. We're here pushing close to 2 hours, so I'll stop yapping before we go too far. But yeah, thanks again, and I'll probably put this VOD on YouTube probably the next day or so to have it ready for people to take a look at if they want to.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, you're welcome for my time and
Yeah.
whatnot.
All right, so I'll end it there.